Welcome back to OTR. It's time now for our political roundtable. And joining us at the table this morning, Democratic analyst Marianne Marsh, Republican analyst Andrew Goodrich. Great to see you guys.
Good morning. Let's start with the big news from overseas, the Israel-Hamas deal. President Trump announced the first stage of this Wednesday. Israel's cabinet approved the ceasefire Thursday our time, which set the stage for Hamas to release hostages. Marianne, it does look like the big peace win that President Trump has been searching for. How big of a win is it?
We shall see. Certainly the hostages and the Palestinian exchange, that happens. But the question is, does the ceasefire last? How long does it last?
What happens next?
What happens next? Will there be a real surge in aid in Gaza of food and other materials so people can start to live again? And will they stop the killing there? So many other presidents have been down this road before. We've celebrated several of them just in our lifetime. It all remains to be seen whether this is real and lasting.
Do you think he's got the rest of the Arab community behind this deal like he says he has?
I don't think so. I think it looks that way, but will they really do the things they need to do for support to get this to stick?
Andrew?
I think it's a huge win, and it's a huge win not just for America, for Israel, but for the whole Middle East. But more importantly, you see how much President Trump has been fixated on winning the Nobel Peace Prize. And obviously, this won't be the year, but that's a great thing for us to encourage. We want President Trump to stay fixated on winning the Nobel Peace Prize.
Is that because Barack Obama won it?
Well, it doesn't matter why, but if that's what he's fixated on, that's going to help in Ukraine and other places. If you want the president fixated on anything, it's peace.
He said he was going to end the Ukraine war on day one. That didn't happen.
Right, it didn't happen. It hasn't even been an entire year yet. But again, let's have the victory here so far. And you're right, we have to give time of what's happening in the Middle East. But again, let's have some time to make sure this all happens.
And you want the president of Hungary to still want the Nobel Peace Prize, because
correct.
if he had been awarded it, it would have ended it.
Right, it's a great thing for us to want.
All right, so and now to the tentacles from all of this. Prior to the news of the agreement, 13 people were arrested at a pro-Palestinian protest here in Boston. What you're looking at here is video that was shared with us by Emerson College students, which shows the confrontation with police. And days earlier, in Boston and other local communities, more than 100 people took over intersections for, this is the word of what, 2025, the phrase of 2025, car meetups. When police tried to break it up, officers say people went after their cruisers. Both Mayor Michelle Wu, Governor Maura Healey say there is no tolerance for violence. Republican State Rep Stephen Exaro say former police officer is introducing two bills in response. One would make assaulting police a felony. The other would make street takeovers illegal. So Andrew, let me start with you. Is this all of this total thing? Is this the appropriate response? Does it go far enough?
Yeah, I don't think we really understand or know the real motive of what's really happening. Is this really Is it really a hatred of police or something else? Or is it really part of the clout economy of trying to get views and hits on some social media site? I don't think we really know enough. I'm no legal expert, but I'm pretty sure setting off fireworks and doing donuts in an intersection is already illegal. So I don't know if necessarily more legislation is needed.
Marianne?
Is this a coincidence or is it a conspiracy? And if it's a conspiracy, who's behind it? And is it providing Trump the opportunity he's looking for to bring troops to Massachusetts against Maura Healey and against Michelle Wu? That's the real question here.
So you think these protesters could be playing right into the president's hands?
Yeah, whether by errors of omission or commission, we don't know. So I think we need to know more about this. But this is exactly what Donald Trump is looking for. And when he takes Project 2025, they wait for opportunities to jump in. Jimmy Kimmel was but one example. So that to me is the question. There are plenty of laws on the books and all that. Maura Healey and Michelle Wu made it clear this past week they're not going to put up with any of it. But I want to know if this is more than just a coincidence, because when you have four of them in one night, two of the only people arrested are from Rhode Island. I can go down the list. It raises a lot of questions.
So to that very point, and in full transparency, as we tape this right now, the president has not singled out Boston for the National Guard yet. Are we just waiting for that to happen?
Yes, absolutely. And it's clear Maura Healey and Michelle Wu are making preparations for it. You heard from Homans and others that they are coming here no matter what. It's only a matter of time. I hope that's not true, but all signs are there.
Let's play this soundbite from Governor Healey this week talking about how the National Guard specifically is not needed.
What we're seeing, though, I mean, I look at Illinois, I look at Oregon, California. This is a lot of political theater on the part of President Trump.
All right, Andrew, I want to ask you about this because by all accounts, the protests that were happening in Portland, Oregon, outside that ICE building were peaceful, certainly more peaceful than setting a police cruiser on fire, which happened in Massachusetts. What's the end game here for the White House? Is it to get military control into a lot of these Democratic cities?
I think there's two phases. Number one, it's rage bait. In the rage bait meeting, you're going to see Democrats overreact. This is the end of democracy. This is the end of America.
Well, but the military, there is the Posse Comitatus Act. The military shouldn't be used on domestic soil, right?
I'm not saying. I'm saying what the goal is. The goal is to create this, have Democrats on the other side overreact, and then when what they say doesn't happen, that American democracy will still be here in 2 years. Hey, we were just trying to help crime. And in the midterms, Trump can say it was the Democrats who overreacted and said, this is why we're not doing this. There's also local police have a really difficult job in this aspect. With ICE raids, they have to both take control of the protesters, keep them safe, and also keep the ICE agents also being safe for what they're doing. And having the National Guard there, I think, no one's talking about that, could help make sure that all those folks are going to be safe. Again, the ultimate goal is for an overreaction, not for the end of democracy.
Marianne?
You couldn't be more wrong. I mean, look at what's going on here. It is clear Donald Trump is using troops to get people to surrender, to capitulate, to get down and say, oh, okay, there's nothing I can do here. There are all these, military guys, National Guard, police, whatever, with guns. They watch what's happening around the country. They see mothers ripped from their kids crying in cars, windows bashed in cars with kids sitting in the car. They shot a pastor in the head. They throw women and others to the ground, elderly people. They're not here for this. So they're the ones who are overreacting because the White House thinks everyone's just going to say, no mas, no mas. That's not going to happen, and they don't like what they're seeing on TV. So maybe certain red states and red counties will do it and red cities will do it, but the rest of America opposes all of this because it's unconstitutional, it is illegal, and it is un-American.
Good. All right. And we could talk about this for the whole morning, but let's move on to the next one. Let's talk about the Massachusetts Republican primary for governor. And yes, it's down the road, but the newest member of the race is already spending big. You may have seen ads for Mike Minogue on TV. During last week's Patriots, he buys a spot in front of the Patriots game on NBC Sunday night. That's not a cheap buy. He has reportedly already spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on ads. Minogue joins a field including two former cabinet chiefs in the Baker administration. Those are Mike Keneally and Brian Shortsleeve. Minogue is a GOP donor and a businessman, and he's very rich, by the way. Andrew, what is your reaction to how Minogue is introducing himself?
First, I want to be a little clear. I'm actually already supporting another candidate, but Minogue's intro to the race was exactly what you need to do, right? So you're introducing yourself to the entire field. You're doing it with the bio piece and also sprinkling in some policy that's going to resonate with Republican voters. Now, we're not really that far off because you're looking at the convention in April, and there's going to be caucuses and delegates already happening in March and February.
The fact that there are so many candidates, though, on the Republican side, do you think it's a sign that the governor, they think the governor's vulnerable?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Is the governor vulnerable?
No. If you look at the polling, no, certainly not. And she's very competitive, and she's a hell of a campaigner. What I think is interesting about Minogue, though, is in an interview earlier this morning, he reveals that he's anti-abortion, which is not going to fly in Massachusetts, especially when you have a governor who went out and got mifepristone, made sure everyone can have an abortion, et cetera, et cetera. And then he also said that everything we just talked about in terms of using troops and everything to get people who are not citizens here was just a bad execution. We need better execution because we're really going after the criminals, drug dealers, and all that. And he cited the Milford High School student and the Tufts student. And yet, that shows just how oblivious he is to what's really going on here. That's not what this is all about. And if he thinks it's an execution problem between those two positions alone, he might get through a Republican primary. He never wins a general election.
Speaking of New England governors, Democratic Maine Governor Janet Mills is expected to announce a challenge to Republican Senator Susan Collins. It's a key 2026 Senate contest. It's probably the best pickup opportunity for Democrats out there next year. She served as governor for 2 terms. Meanwhile, Senator Susan Collins has served since 1997. This sets up a potential matchup between 2 of the best-known political figures in the state of Maine. Marianne, there are a number of other Democrats already in this race. Does Janet Mills' entrance change the dynamic in this race, and does it make Susan Collins even more vulnerable?
I love Janet Mills. I saw her the other day. Nobody better. But the X factor in this race, in the primary, is Wayne Plattner, the Democrat who got in, who's the oyster farmer,
yes.
who is really taken off. And he did a rally with Bernie up there. His initial interviews were like spot on. He's a natural candidate. Now, I think Janet Mills would beat Susan Collins, no question about it. You can't underestimate Susan Collins. She's a survivor. But Wayne Plattner is the one to watch in that race.
Will her age, Janet Mills' age, be a problem in a primary?
It could be, but so is Susan Collins. I think in this.
But in the primary.
In Maine, I think it's a little different than it is for a Senate race here in Massachusetts.
Andrew, quickly.
These are fascinating, these are juggernauts, and it's going to be, as a political junkie, how can you not love having all these different personalities? It's going to be a fun one to watch.
Yeah.
We continue on the record. Stay with us.